What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the second episode of the Not Five Guys podcast. I'm your host, Siraj. For those of you that don't know, we are the 5 USC grads that love watching sports. We love talking about them as well, and we're spreading our ideas out on a more public medium. So today we're going to be talking about some Super Bowl storylines and the NBA trade deadline. As usual, our short, fun segments are going to be scattered throughout this episode, and we're going to end with our weekly predictions. So with that being said, let's just go around and quickly introduce ourselves so we can attach a voice to a name.
What it do? I'm Kevin.
What's up? I'm Nikhil.
How's it going, guys? It's Phil. Hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl.
Hi, I'm Jerry.
All right, and I am your host, Siraj, like I said before. So that's our squad. Let us know who your favorite one is in the comments because, trust me, we read every single comment, all 2 of them from last week, right?
Nope, we got 3.
There you go.
Shout out
So
3 viewers.
We've got 3 comments. That's how you know we read all of them. So shout out all of the comments. We love you guys. So we're going to start off with our stat of the week. So the NBA All-Star teams have been announced, and Bradley Beal is the first player to average more than 28 points per game and not make the All-Star team in the past 35 years. So let's dive deeper into some of those numbers and talk about how big of a snub he was. So Bradley Beal got in over Kyle Lowry. Now let's just do a quick comparison between the two. We've got Bradley Beal. He's averaging 29 points per game as opposed to Lowry's 19. Beal's averaging 1 fewer assists at 6 as opposed to 7. And they're both averaging the exact same amount of rebounds at 4.5. Now, obviously, he has the 10-point advantage in points per game. He also has an average in field goal percentage and effective field goal percentage. Now, as we switch over to the advanced stats, we can see that Bradley Beal actually has a higher player efficiency rating at 23.1 as opposed to Lowry's 17.3. For those of you that don't know what PER is, it's a standardized measure of per minute production where 15 is the league average. So if we're really looking at it, Kyle Lowry's 17.3 is just slightly better than league average, whereas Beal's 23.1 is up there at top 15 in the entire league. Bradley Beal has a higher usage rate at 33.2% as opposed to Lowry's 22.8. So he's doing a lot of it. He's shouldering a lot of the burden of carrying that Wizards team to, 17 wins so far, which isn't great, but both have similar value over replacement player numbers. And with regards to win shares, those numbers are pretty comparable as well. So bottom line is, if we look at the numbers, if we look at the advanced statistics as well as the regular numbers, Bradley Beal is better than Kyle Lowry across a lot of them. At the end of the day, ultimately, the All-Star game is an individual accomplishment. So regardless of whether or not how good his team is doing, individually, he's performing really well. He deserves to get in over Kyle Lowry, and don't even get me started on him over Trae Young. I love Trae Young, but, this is an individual accomplishment where you're the worst defender in the league, so we can't have that in our All-Star game.
And who invited Bradley Beal's agent on our podcast?
Yeah, well, I got to give him props. Me and Shaq are apparently the only ones that seem to understand that Bradley Beal should be in the All-Star game, but that's okay. All right, moving on. Let's talk about some Super Bowl storylines. Nikhil, take it away.
All right, so we're going to play a little game called Where Would You Post This? We're going to read out a couple of statements, and the goal is to say where would we feel comfortable posting this statement. Only on our burner account on Twitter, on our Snap story, so it's gone after 1 day, on our Instagram, so it's there and it's associated with your name, but it's not really that big a deal. Would we feel comfortable putting it on our blog post where it's pretty clear that we're being serious about what we think about it? Or if we're super, super confident in the statement, would we feel comfortable referencing it in our thesis? So I'm going to come out with the first statement. Kyle Shanahan lost the 49ers the Super Bowl. So Phil, where would you feel comfortable posting this?
So to me, Kyle Shanahan was the reason the Niners lost the Super Bowl. I would be referencing this in my thesis. The biggest thing for me comes down to 2 decisions he made in this game. One was with a minute 53 to go in the first half. He did not call a timeout when the Chiefs were about to punt. Asked after the game why he decided not to give the ball back to his offense with 2 minutes to go, he said he was content with a 10-10 score. I don't know how you can be content with a 10-10 score against Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has been the best quarterback in the league over the past 2 seasons, best quarterback in the playoffs. When you're going up against Mahomes in this Chiefs offense, you shouldn't feel comfortable with a 24-0 lead as shown by the Texans. Why do you feel comfortable that you're tied going into halftime? If you look at 2 years ago, the Eagles were in a similar situation. They were up 3. They had a backup quarterback in Nick Foles. What does Doug Peterson do with 2 minutes to go? He attacks and gets a touchdown. But Kyle Shanahan doesn't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo, and so he sits on the ball. That was the biggest thing that Shanahan did to blow this game. And then coming out in the second half, he decided to kick a field goal on the first possession at the Chiefs 24 on a 4th and 2. And you're just giving away points. You're close to the red zone. You got to be scoring touchdowns against this offense. And I think Kyle Shanahan's conservativeness was the reason the Niners lost the Super Bowl.
You know what? I don't really agree with that statement. I don't think Kyle Shanahan is the main blame. So I think I might post this statement on my Instagram, even though it is true in a certain way, but it's not completely true. Because after the Niners was leading the game 20-10, 49ers were not really passing the ball, but were not really running the ball. They were actually passing the ball. But what Kyle Shanahan did was actually correct. He was going back into the short middle part of the field or back into the slant, which was supposed to be the play design. And according to articles, the Chiefs were very good at covering those 2 parts of the field. But Jimmy G was just not passing to the right person, and he was missing his open man. He was getting blocked by the Chiefs defenders. So it wasn't really Kyle Shanahan's fault. It was Jimmy G and their player wasn't really able to actually execute the play. So their loss of 49ers might be contributed to players rather than just coaches.
So I'm not even going to go that far. I'm only going to put it on my story. Jimmy Garoppolo had every chance to win this game that he needed. Airmail Sanders on that deep route. And even on the 4th that he took a sack, he had 3 open guys and chose to throw to the one, or well, he didn't actually. He held onto the ball and got sacked. So I'm not even going so far as to say that I'm going to put this on my Instagram and have it seen by other people and have them think my name is associated with that. But anyway, we're going to go into another storyline here. The Chiefs' second half performance was mainly due to Patrick Mahomes. Jerry?
You know, they were down 20-10, and, you know, when they come back, it was primarily Patrick Mahomes, also, like, their defense as well. So I think the statement I'll post it on Instagram, and I think Patrick Mahomes did a great job. He was, you know, throwing the deep pass to Tyreek Hill, throwing to Sammy Watkins, and they did do the job. But you also have to give credit to their defense that stopped Jimmy G to run down the clock. So I think I'll post it on Instagram.
I'm a little bit stronger on this position. I think I'm posting this on my blog. Patrick Mahomes, quarterback's the most important position in the league. So in any situation, I'm automatically looking at the quarterback as the main reason. And once again, Patrick Mahomes was the team leader. Even if you want to call this a bad games by Patrick Mahomes standards, his EPA per play over the course of the Super Bowl was 0.17. At league average this season was 0.03. So you look at Mahomes' stat line and you're like, wow, he didn't play that well. But actually, he was still way above average compared to a league quarterback. And the Chiefs don't come back without Patrick Mahomes. He's the only quarterback in the league that has that much explosiveness. He's the only quarterback in the league, I think, that could make that play on 3rd and 15. He's the best quarterback in the league on 3rd and 15s this year, posting over 130 passer rating on 3rd and 15, which is absolutely ridiculous. Without Mahomes, this Chiefs team is not winning that Super Bowl.
I'm going the exact opposite way on this one. I would only put this on my burner account on Twitter. I do not want this statement being associated with me in any way. This is the thing. The Chiefs' defensive line had been shaky at best. We'd seen 26th in run defense. They were, I think, 15th or 16th in pass defense. But Chris Jones, Niners' last gasp drive, where they're coming back, it's 24-20. He gets 2 passes. One goes straight on the ground, and the second one is almost picked by Kendall Fuller. And on the prior possession, he tipped one of them, and then his pressure, he tipped the one on second down, and his pressure on third down led to Garoppolo just throwing it wherever. And just quick stats before we go out here. Garoppolo without pressure in this game, 86% completion, 199 yards, 119.5 passer rating. Jimmy G with pressure, the D-line, 11% completion percentage, 2 ints, 1 sack, and a 0.0 passer rating. Meaning he was pretty much useless in the quarterback position.
I don't know. Yes, Chris Jones is important. He did have a good game, but the Chiefs were down. We're talking about the second half performance. No matter what Chris Jones does, they don't have Patrick Mahomes, they're not coming back from the deficit. And so, to me, it just you got to chalk it up to Mahomes over anybody else.
I'm going to take that 3rd and 15 that you talked about. I'm going to say Jimmy Ward gave up that play. Jimmy Ward was ranked as the worst 49ers corner and also one of the worst defenders in the NFL. On that note, let's move on to our last one. Super Bowl ads are terrible now. Phil.
I agree with that. This week I was thinking about it, and the only ad I can remember from this past Sunday was the Doritos Old Town Road ad. But if you ask me about the ads in 2007 or 2008, I can name, all right, Bud Light Rock, Paper, Scissors, Bud Light throwing the guy out the window, the Doritos Cheesy Hands. The mid-2000s were peak Super Bowl ads. Right now, they're just garbage. And so I'm putting this on my blog. Super Bowl ads nowadays suck.
That's not true. I think the Super Bowl ads are actually pretty good nowadays. I'll definitely put that statement on the burner account. I'm pretty sure you remember the Hotline commercials, smart pack, smart pack. Dude, that's just so catchy. You not realize that? Smart pack, smart pack. It's lots of Boston, the 2 main actors talking about smart pack. Dude, that's just catch me on. It's a good car commercial. I really catch on to it. So did you not also the Tom Brady commercials? You walk into the stadium, give you those suspense that he might get retired, and then he's oh, I'm playing for another year, and you're just oh, Tom Brady's back.
That's not a real commercial. It doesn't count.
Tom Brady's got to find a way to stay relevant on Super Bowl Sunday somehow.
True.
I'm taking this and putting it on my thesis. I just do not think that there's any interesting things that happen in Super Bowl ads today. Do you remember in 2010, let's look at 10 years ago, when they had the one about the kid who slapped the dude's hand, keep your hands off my mama and keep your hands off my Doritos? Top class ad. Great ad. And nowadays, there's not that much interest. Listen to some of the ones that happened this year. We have the Smart Pack, which is basically just a bunch of people making fun of being from Boston. We have the one where they stole the Porsche Taycan and drove away. They have Chrissy Teigen throwing the young luxury party. They have Alex Rodriguez talking about his beer. All that's happening now is that people are coming and saying, hi, I'm rich and I'm selling something. Please buy my thing. So I'm not interested in them anymore.
There you go. So anybody listening that made Super Bowl ads, please change them and make them better next year. You can thank us for our input.
Not Jerry.
Yeah, not except for Jerry. So don't listen to Jerry's feedback. Just kidding. So we're now going to be switching gears to a segment that we call Betting Hotline. We got a phone call this week coming from one of our loyal fans asking if our gambling addict Phil could help him out with a bet.
Hello, this is the Betting Hotline. How can I help you today?
Hey, my name is not Kevin. I'm calling from Eureka, California, and I'm in some really, really deep trouble. So this past weekend, I put all my rent money onto the Super Bowl, and I lost every single penny of it. Luckily, on Monday was payday since I get paid at the beginning of the month. So I'm looking to make a lot of that money back at the 76ers Bucks game. Can you give me some help?
Sure, not Kevin. Let me take a look at that game. So that game is on Thursday, February 6th. We've got the 76ers at the Bucks. Bucks are favored by 9 right now, with the total sitting at 227 points. First thing that stands out to me here is the 76ers are on the road. Well, they're one of the best teams at home in the NBA. They're also one of the worst on the road. Looking at 9-18 straight up, 9-17-1 against the spread on the road. So that immediately has me looking at the Bucks. One other thing that really stands out to me is Philly's on the last game of a 4-game road trip. They're going to be tired. And the 3 games of the road trip, lost by 10 to Atlanta, then lost by 21 to Boston, then by 31 to Miami. So this is a tired team. They do not seem motivated right now. And honestly, I could see the Bucks winning this game by 40 to keep that streak going. On the side here, I'm looking at the Bucks -9. Before the Pelicans game this past week, they were favored by 10 or more in 8 straight games. And I honestly don't know why they're not favored by 10 or more here. So I'd take the Bucks up to -10, maybe even -11 if it gets that high tomorrow. We're looking at the opening line right now. And then for the total, Philly's gone over 4 straight games. Bucks have been back and forth over under. So I don't have too strong of a line, but if you're trying to get your money back after payday this week, I bet the house on Bucks -9.
Sounds like that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my entire life savings and my first paycheck.
Whoa, I not that much.
I need a lot of money. I'm in some serious debt. Betting on the lights going off at the Super Bowl was not a smart idea. So
should have called me last week.
Oh shoot, my wife's coming home. She doesn't know. I gotta go. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that was definitely a little bit weird. Hopefully not Kevin's wife doesn't find out about the bad bets that he made during the Super Bowl, but hopefully, I guess, Phil, this week, you gave him really good advice, and he's going to make some of that money back. He put, a lot of money on the Milwaukee Bucks there, so hopefully Giannis can come through for him. But it's going to be hard to transition from that, but we're now going to talk about the NBA trade deadline that's upcoming. So for this segment, we're going to be examining 3 potential trades and grading them as follows. We're going to call it a dunk if we feel that this is a great trade. We'll call it a 3-point shot if we feel that it has potential for success. And it's going to be a half-court heave if we think that the trade is likely to fail. So the first rumor that we got on the table is Clint Capella to the Boston Celtics. So, first of all, I think that this trade is going to be a dunk. I think that Clint Capella is 100% going to be traded from the Houston Rockets, and there's a few reasons for that. So, for those of you that think that, trading Capella is not a good idea, he's our only center that we play regularly, well, he's not as valuable to the Rockets as he once was. So a couple seasons ago, the Rockets were a pick-and-roll offense. More than 25% of their offensive possessions actually finished with a pick-and-roll ball handler or a roll man. But then Chris Paul came along, James Harden came along, and they ran a revolutionary offense that was just purely focused on isolation basketball. So last year, 21% of their possessions were finished by a pick-and-roll participant, as opposed to it's down to 15% this year. And actually, Houston ranks last in the league in percentage of plays finished by pick-and-roll ball handlers and roll men this year. So adding Westbrook obviously totally messed up any sort of spacing that they had, because Chris Paul, you could hit him out on the three-point line. He can camp out there and hit a three, whereas Westbrook, he can't really do that. So now they don't have as much spacing, so Capella's clogging a driving lane for Westbrook. Houston's offense actually scores 110.3 points per 100 when Capella's on the floor, and that's actually on pace with the 17th ranked Detroit Pistons. On the contrary to that, when you look at when he's off the court, the Rockets score 117.3 points per 100, which would rank as the NBA's best offense. So the Rockets are interested in going small, Capella isn't as effective as they used to be. If you look at the Boston Celtics, they could definitely use a center. Cantor can't defend at all. Capella is actually quite a good defender as well. The Rockets' defensive ratings are significantly higher when he's on the floor versus when he's not. And also, they run the pick and roll more than a lot of other teams in the NBA as well. I think they rank in the top 10 in that facet of the game as well. So I feel like this trade is definitely going to be a slam dunk.
I'd argue that losing Capella would be bad for the Rockets. You're losing an elite rim protector and an elite rebounder. When Capella's on the court, the defensive rating goes up. I think the Rockets have enough offensive firepower right now, and Capella's the man to help on the opposite end of the court.
I'm actually going to say that I think this is going to be a half-court heave. We talked about defensive rating just now. Capella's defensive rating this year is 105. Who's better than 105? Enes Kanter, 102. Daniel Tice, 103. Boston is actually ranked third in defense, which, yeah, it's pretty surprising when you think about it, because you're like, oh, I don't think they have any really good players, but they're third in the league in defensive rating. On top of that, they're 11th in defensive rebounding percentage, which means that they're doing really well in the two categories that Capella would really help them in. On top of that, obviously, we have to look at the Houston Rockets. They're going to trot out a starting lineup where nobody is over 6'6", and they have who? Isaiah Hartenstein on the bench to be the center? So I'm not seeing it. I think they're going to look for a center.
Yeah, my only counter to that is I think isolating just a single player's defensive rating doesn't really do justice. You can ask anybody in the NBA that follows the NBA, that watches the NBA. Clint Capella is a significantly better defender than Enes Kanter, and nobody can tell you otherwise. So, sure, maybe if you isolate that one number and compare it against each other, that one number can point to Enes Kanter being a better defender by that one metric. But for all intents and purposes, Capella is a better defender, so I think that he'll definitely help out there as a starter. And obviously, Enes Kanter can't finish above the rim the same way Capella does. So whether Boston runs a pick and roll a lot. Imagine running a pick and roll with Kemba Walker and Clint Capella. That'd be lethal. Jason Tatum, Clint Capella, that'd be lethal as well. So I think that this potential trade could work out really, really well for the Boston Celtics. And on the flip side, the Rockets, they would get a center in return. We just don't know who that would be. So they're not going to only play small ball. All right, now let's talk about Robert Covington to Philadelphia. He's a super hot commodity 3-and-D guy in a league that's really moving forward in that aspect. Nico, what do you think about that?
I'm going to say that this is a 3-point, maybe 2 feet behind the 3-point line shot. One of the things that I've seen with Philly is Philly's offensive rating is 20th in the league. So they really do want help from a guy like Covington, who has done pretty well from the three, maybe not as well as he has been in the previous years with 346, but 358 is his career average. He's known as a 3-and-D guy. He is pretty good from there, and you just got to give him a couple games. In certain games, he's been able to play pretty well. He was plus 16 against Sacramento. He was plus 9 against Indiana. Those are some... Sacramento, you can say whatever you like, but Indiana's a decent team. He was plus 20 against Portland a couple weeks ago. So he's been there. He's able to give a lot to your team. Offensively, he's better than Josh Richardson, who's the backup wing right now on Philly. So he'd be able to give you a lot on that end. Of course, he has the defensive chops, but they don't really need that at this point in time. They need offense. And so I think Philly's going to look potentially at acquiring another option that has better offensive capabilities.
I agree with you on that, Nikhil. I think that we're not really approaching Trae Young from the logo territory on this 3, but I do think that this is a 3. I feel kind of lukewarm about it as well, just because if we really look at what Philadelphia is struggling with right now, especially with the addition of Al Horford, you've got Al Horford, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris. You don't really have much outside shooting. And look, you're defensively talking, they're really good. They're long, they're athletic, they can switch, they can defend the paint. You got a really good defensive team. Robert Covington will add to that. So yes, they're going to get better defensively. But what we're really looking at for Philadelphia is they need shooting. They need three-point shooting bad. They're struggling with spacing, especially with Horford and Embiid. They've talked about it at length. Neither one of them is really able to be as good as their potential. Obviously, that clogs up the paint for Ben Simmons as well. You've got Korkmaz, who can shoot the three ball, and he can get hot at times. But I think that they're going to look at a three-point shooter that's more reliable from downtown, and maybe not someone that's as focused on defense, but more of an offensive scorer, hopefully a three-point shooter.
For me, I'm rating this a 3, maybe a foot on the line, but I think Covington's a pretty solid player to add on to the 76ers with his 3-and-D ability, but he is a pretty streaky shooter at times. He has his fair share of cold spells, but I feel like other than shooting, he's pretty limited offensively, and he's not able to create his own offense. So most of the time, he would just be standing there waiting for the ball rather than making his own offense or being a playmaker on Philly.
All right, our last one is surrounding a Laker, a guy that has been in trade rumors almost ever since he stepped foot into a Lakers uniform. We've got Kyle Kuzma to Sacramento. Kevin, do you think this is going to work out?
I think this is a half-court heave and a pretty big heave, too. Unlike the Rockets and the 76ers, who are 5th and 6th in their respective conferences, the Lakers are currently 1st. And as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. From the Lakers' perspective, I think that trading Kuzma is not a good idea because he's currently the 3rd best player, arguably, on the Lakers right now. And especially after helping the team to the 1st seed, I think it could potentially be pretty detrimental. If you look at his offensive rating, his defensive rating, it's been going up every single year. Of course, his numbers have gone down compared to last year, but that's expected when you add another MVP candidate onto your team. But if you look at when AD's been out during that 5-game stretch, Kuzma's offensive rating went up from 110 to 117 when AD was gone. And on the Kings side, I don't think that Lakers would get anyone beneficial from that trade that would significantly improve where they are. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kevin. I actually think that trading Kyle Kuzma would be a terrible decision. This is a half-court heave, and this isn't like a Steph Curry half-court heave where there's a chance where it goes in. We're talking like a terrible shooter, Clint Capella shooting this half-court heave. There's no chance. You know, Kyle Kuzma, like you said, he is the 3rd best player on this team. He's a young, controllable player. He's got a lot of potential. You know, the late, great Kobe Bryant, he was asked about this Lakers team, and he said that they're big, they're fast, they're long, they're athletic, they play well together. And Kyle Kuzma is an instrumental piece of that. He's tall, he can shoot the 3-ball, he's really good in transition. Like you said, he's improving on defense as well. And they're the 1st team in the West. They're the number 1 ranked team in the West. So I don't think the other point is I don't think that the value that they're going to get back in return for trading Kuzma is going to be worth what he actually is right now. Like I said before, he's young. He's got a lot of promise. He's only getting better. And to trade him only for a specific three-point shooter or a 3-and-D guy, I think would not be intelligent. He's someone that the Lakers could definitely keep around for a long time. And in my opinion, he's going to be a future all-star and star of this league.
I'm going to have to say I agree with you two, but for a little bit of a different reason. I think I'm surprised by the package that is being talked about. A lot of people are talking that the Lakers want Nemanja Bjelica for Kuzma, and I don't think that makes any sense for the Kings. This year, Kuzma is 101 offensive rating, 110 defensive rating. 101 offensive rating is about league average. League average is 100. 110 defensive rating is a little leaky. But the thing is, Bjelica's 110 defensive rating is equal to Kuzma's. But on top of that, he has a 117 offensive rating, and he's playing extremely well in the system that's defined for him in Sacramento. He also shoots 400 from 3. I don't see why you would give that up for Kuzma. Maybe he fits the timeline a little bit better because you have Marvin Bagley and you have De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield. But outside of that, I just don't think this makes that much sense for me.
Yeah, we're all on a pretty good agreement there. So the Lakers, Rob Pelinka, if you're listening to our podcast, do not trade Kyle Kuzma.
Unless you trade him for Bojan Bogdanovic, then it's fine.
All right, well, okay, that's fair. But Outside of that, please don't
Oh,
trade
God.
Kyle Kuzma.
My bad. I wrong Bogdanovich.
If you trade him, he might change the color of his hair for like the 7th time this season. All right, so lastly, we're going to hop into our prediction segment where we make 3 predictions related to sporting events going on that week. Like we said before, we're going to be keeping track of everyone's results, and whoever is in last place is going to have to undergo some sort of punishment, which we have actually decided upon today. We're going to reveal that our punishment is eating a spoonful of Vegemite. I had absolutely no clue what Vegemite was before we decided on this, so
Just pure salt. Pure salt.
yeah, it's not sounding
Perfect
too
for
appetizing.
Surge.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know. I don't really like salt. It's not sounding too appetizing to me, and we actually will be videoing the person that eats this spoonful of Vegemite on our Twitter and Instagram, so catch full coverage of this punishment on those accounts at Not5Guys. I'm pretty dramatic, so if I'm the loser, you're not going to want to miss that.
I also feel like you should walk back the statement, I don't like salt.
Well, yeah, I guess I don't like salt in the context of Vegemite, even though I have no idea what the heck this thing even is. But we'll see. So far, we've got Nikhil and Kevin in the lead at 2-1. And everybody else is at 1-2. That everybody else is obviously me, Phil, and Jerry. But moving on to our predictions for this week, our first one is the winner of the Rockets versus Lakers on Thursday.
I'm picking the Lakers.
I got the Rockets this week on Thursday. I think that the Lakers have been showing a little bit of inconsistency, so.
I'm taking the Lakers because I think Clinton Capella is no longer going to be a member of the Houston Rockets.
There you go.
And AD is just going to have, LeBron and AD are going to have a lob fest.
Yeah, I'm with Nikhil here. The roster is more likely to be shaken up on Thursday. They're going to be at less than full strength, so the Lakers should have it pretty easy.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I'd take the Lakers. I actually take the Lakers pretty big on this. PJ Tucker, James Harden, and Eric Gordon, if you guys are listening, all I'm going to say is good luck. Anthony Davis and LeBron are going to go off. The Rockets have no size. And Isaiah Hartenstein doesn't like to play because Mike D'Antoni doesn't like playing him. So Lakers are going to win big.
Looks like I'm on my own on this.
PJ Tucker, if you're listening, please explain why your nickname is PJ when you don't have a first name that starts with a P or a J.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. We need to get PJ on the show and ask him about that. We'll address him as Philip John, though, just so...
Philip John.
All right, next we have the winner of the Celtics versus the Thunder on Sunday.
I'm taking the Celtics. They just got way too many offensive powers. I think they're going to beat the Thunder this Sunday.
Celtics, offensive rating 5th, defensive rating 3rd. They're doing quite well for themselves. I really don't think they're going to have that many problems dealing with one Chris Paul and one Danilo Gallinari. So,
really? You're not going to mention the best player on the Thunder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Give my man some respect. He's going to carry the Thunder to victory on Sunday.
Wow.
bold.
That's really bold. I'm going to disagree with that. I'm taking the Celtics as well. I don't think that the Thunder have nearly the weapons to keep up with the Celtics. And how about this? The Celtics are going to win this game with Clint Capella on their roster. So
he's trying to connect everything.
There you go. I'm connecting all the dots.
Hey, I'm picking the Celtics, man. Like, hey, according to the kill shot, they have good offense, good defense, so why pick the Thunder?
I'm on the outside this time.
There you go.
Last week, Jerry did the research. This week, I did the research.
All right, our final matchup is the winner of the Heat versus the Blazers on Sunday as well.
Over! I'm picking my own team to win this. Dame Lillard, 61. You heard it here first.
Nah, I'm against you on every single. Oh wait, not on every single pick, but I'm on Heat here. Jimmy Butler is too good. The Blazers can't play defense. This is an easy win for the Heat.
We got Hassan.
What's he gonna do against Jimmy?
Block.
Get into a fight.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Yeah, I got the Heat, but I don't have them in a blowout. I think this is a close game because Damian Lillard has been on an absolute tear lately. He's gonna drop 40-something, keep the game close, Carmelo's going to chip in as well, but the Heat have too much firepower. Jimmy Butler's going to close out this game, so I've got the Heat winning late.
Hey, I'm going with the kill, man. The Blazers are hot, especially with Colin His like dropping every single point on the opponents. Who need to play defense when the offense score more points, right? Offense win games, not defense. So, going with the Blazers.
I'd argue against that. Yeah, Dame might go for 60 on Sunday, but the Heat, they're going to be able to stop the rest of the team. And with all the offensive power on the Heat, they're going to overpower Lillard and his whatever score he puts up on Sunday.
There you go. All right. That's the end of predictions. We'll keep you updated, of course, on our results next week as we get 1 week closer to our spoonful of Vegemite, which sounds awful. So hopefully my teams are able to pull it out. Comment below who you want to eat the Vegemite. We'll see if that actually happens. But with that, that's the end of our show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please feel free to comment anything below. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, anything you want us to add. Like we said before, we appreciate all the feedback that you have. We read all the comments. We look at all the tweets, all the Instagram comments. Anything that you got, please let us know. But with that, we'd like to once again thank you so much for listening and hope to catch you next week on our next episode of the Not Five Guys podcast.